All right, we are back for another video today talking about the Carolina Panthers 2025 NFL Draft. Now, this is my favorite team. I always try and keep it very balanced on the channel on which teams I talk about, or if I rank all kinds of teams. I never try and focus too much on my personal favorite team because a lot of times there's not much to talk about other than how bad they are. Although, luckily, recently things been trending in the right direction. 2020, what year is it? I guess the end of 2024 because the Panthers didn't play in 2025. So the end of the 2024 season, Bryce Young was getting better. The team was looking better, and now this draft was actually graded an A plus per PFF. Not sure what that noise just was, but their draft was graded A plus according to PFF. And I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this draft. I know Panthers fans were kind of all over the place. So just gonna start with the first overall pick for the Panthers. I guess the 8th overall pick in the draft, first round pick for the Panthers. Ted McMillan, wide receiver. This was one that was actually kind of disputed among the fans because a lot of people wanted defense. The Panthers defense was really bad last year. But when you look at this offense right now, you have Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, Ted McMillan, Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Tommy Tremble. As far as the offensive weapons, you also have Rico Dowdle and Trevor Etienne, who they also drafted. Without Ted, this is a bit worse. Adam Thielen is getting older. He doesn't have probably 4 seasons left at this point, at least at the current production he's on, because Thielen's actually a very reliable wide receiver. You have Jalen Coker, who was great last year for Carolina, undrafted, very good, very promising. But overall, you needed that true wide receiver number one. If you take Tet off this roster, no one on here, in my opinion, other than Jalen Coker, has the potential to become a true wide receiver number one. So when you draft one, 8th overall, this is a for sure guy for Bryce Young. They knew he was looking better. He progressed a lot throughout last season. So what do? You go get him as much help as possible. I loved this pick, despite not being defense. Also, they got Trevor Etienne. So this is, I believe, their round 3 pick or round 4 pick, I believe, getting a running back. This one kind of sucks because I love the pick, but it's just sad they had to make the pick because the only reason this pick was actually even made is because Jonathan Brooks is hurt. Really sad. If you guys don't know, he tore his ACL in college, managed to come back with like probably 5 weeks left last year for Carolina, and then like on the 3rd play or something, he tore his ACL again. So absolutely brutal for him. The pick is a good pick, though. I saw people upset about this. The reality is Jonathan Brooks might never be the same player he once was, unfortunately. And without this pick, you likely have to sign another running back. This is a nice, young, promising guy that you can keep on the team longer than just 1 year, like Rico Dowdle likely will be. So I like the Trevor Etienne pick. It's just really sad it had to be made. Also, the last pick the Panthers made was Jimmy Horn for wide receiver. This was one of Shadir's weapons at Colorado. And he's very good, very athletic. I've seen a lot of people talk about he could be a big guy on special teams for them. So I'm all for it. I like this pick a lot. This is someone with a lot of upside as far as athleticism goes. I thought it was honestly a very good later round pick. And then also Mitchell Evans as well for tight end. Had Tommy Tremble. Ja'Tavion Sanders looked pretty good last year up until he hurt his neck, I believe it was. Just kind of slowed him down a little bit. I'm excited to see him in year 2. Tremble's actually pretty underrated. He's one of the few good players that actually came from the Matt Rule era in Carolina. Him and Chuba Hubbard both came from there, or that time period, I guess. In the past 5 years for Carolina. And they're both actually very solid players. Mitchell Evans has nice tight end depth, though. And honestly, that's just a lot of really good offensive depth and also big pieces on offense. I think they filled a lot of team needs, such as wide receiver, running back depth, tight end depth. I like this draft a lot so far for offense. I was very happy with it. And then defense. This was also a big talking point because Carolina's defense last year was one of the worst ever. It was absolutely terrible, very painful to watch. So what do? They addressed the defense. They addressed it in a big way. They traded up for Nick Scorton, the defensive end. I know a lot of people wanted Mike Green, although he has some off-the-field allegations. I guess Carolina didn't really want to risk, which I completely understand given what they are. Nick Scorton, though, great player from Texas A&M. I'm really excited to see what he can do. They drafted him. They also drafted Princely, and I'm not going to try his last name because I just can't say it and I don't want to ruin it. But they drafted both these guys. Both these guys can come off the edge, can attack the quarterback. Princely had 10.5 sacks last year for Ole Miss. And with them drafting him and Nick Scorton, I'm kind of assuming Clowney's not going to be on this roster next year. Maybe he's there and they kind of wait a year to let go of him, but it would save him I think around $8 million. And Clowney's older anyway. I think you have some promising young guys. In my opinion, you just kind of bite the bullet, let Clowney go. We'll see what Nick Scorton can do in year 1. We'll see what Princely Human Malin can do in year one. I think I said that correctly. So I don't know. I'm excited though. I thought these were two really good defensive picks. Also, safety was a huge concern for Carolina last year, and they already addressed that in free agency by getting Trevon Merrick from the Raiders, which I actually like that move a ton. And now they drafted Lathan Ransom from OSU. This is someone that can fly all over the field, make a ton of great hits. Aggressive player, not afraid of contact. I like this pick a lot. I know I saw some people at the time saying, oh, they should have went like a different direction with this, but to be honest, I mean, I don't know. I liked it. I like Lathan Ransom. Playing for OSU, obviously they were a very, very good team last year. It's high competition as well. I can't remember the other players that were also talked about at this point in time, but I like this pick. We needed safety depth, or I guess I'm not on the team, but they needed safety depth, and they already addressed it once. Now they addressed it again with the young guy. I like this pick a lot. Then also they drafted Cam Jackson, defensive tackle. Again, that was a huge issue last year because Derrick Brown went down for basically the entire year, which was just absolutely brutal for Carolina. So now you get some depth there because some of the other guys are just not very young, like Shai Tuttle, like a Sean Robinson. This is hopefully someone young in there that can get some meaningful minutes, contribute to the team a little bit in the later round. He's a later round pick, so I'm cool with that. That was drafted Jaden Crumedy last year, who, kind of same situation, hoping to just kind of get some depth there. And yeah, so I'm really excited the way this turned out. I got to be honest. As a fan of the Panthers, there's been some years where I have just not agreed with a lot of their draft picks and a lot of their moves, but this one seemed like there was a clear vision from Dan Morgan, and I was honestly very skeptical of his hire initially because I figured when you fired Scott Fitterer, I was like, okay, this is the perfect time to hire outside the organization and the joke of what this team is right now. And they didn't. They promoted the assistant, and I was like, oh, terrible move. Turns out Dan Morgan, I think, probably would have disagreed where Scott made certain moves because they draft differently. They make moves differently. It seems like Dan Morgan goes really off of production and the value that they've brought to the table. I feel like Scott Fitterer constantly reached on these, like, potential picks where it's like, if this super raw prospect happens to be, this sleeper gem in the later round that progresses a ton in year one, it'll be a huge hit, where it's like, yeah, but the odds of that happening aren't very high. And he went for those kind of picks a lot, I feel like. Whereas I think that, especially this year, Dan Morgan has really tried to draft off of production and proven value to the team. And I respect it. I think this is a very good draft. I was really happy with it as a fan. I saw a lot of people complaining, and I just did not understand it. PFF graded an A+, and that was kind of almost some reassurance to me. Like, okay, yeah, I wasn't the only one that was just super, super high on this. I think draft time just brings out people always complaining about something, some kind of player you pass on. But I felt like this was the perfect draft in terms of addressing team needs and gaining depth and youth at positions they desperately needed depth and youth at. And you also got a true RCR 1. I was beyond thrilled with this draft. And so you bring in these guys, well, where do you stand? You have a huge year for Bryce Young. This is probably, I said that last year was the biggest year of his career because he had to, have some sort of direction that proved to the Carolina Panthers that they didn't want to move on from Bryce Young, which he did. He showed that he can be the guy. This year, I'd actually probably argue that this is probably the biggest year of his career because he's shown what he can do. So it's either you build on that or you don't. Because here's the thing. Is Bryce Young's leash short right now? Probably not. He probably has room for error because he did honestly have a fantastic end to the 2024 or 2025 season. However, if we get to be, we'll say week 9, and those flashes just aren't really there, and he's struggling, this next quarterback class is much better than what we just had. And Carolina's going to have in the back of their head, hey, if he's struggling again, we got to make a move here because Dalton is not someone you throw in long term. Jack Plummer is not someone you throw in long term. So this is a huge year for Bryce Young. And the Panthers know that. They addressed it. That's why I think they made some of the moves they did. They wanted to leave no doubt that Bryce Young has plenty of help. He showed what he could do last year. Okay, we'll help him out even more. We'll get him Tat McMillan. We'll get Trevor Etienne for running back depth in case Chuba goes down, or in case Rico Dowdle goes down, or in case Dowdle's just not that good in Carolina. You signed Hunter Renfrow, who's been out of the NFL for a year. He wants to come back. So he wants to come back, you make a move to sign him. You're making all these moves to try and ensure that Bryce has plenty of help. And I'm not really sure why people complain about it, to be honest. You've improved the offensive line a ton over the past year or two. Ike Mekwonu, they pick up his 5th year. Damian Lewis was very solid last year. Austin Corbett's been solid. Robert Hunt was great last year for Carolina. Moton's always very solid for him at tackle. So you've improved this offensive line that was very, very bad 2 years ago because Bryce Young's rookie year, he was just sacked every time. And if he wasn't sacked, he was forcing a pass for an interception. Last year, you improve it, and then he improves. It's a direct correlation. And so I think they saw that, and they tried to address receiver, add some youth in there, get some depth in there. I like it a lot. I like where the Panthers stand a lot in offense. It's just Bryce Young has to go out there and prove he can still be the guy because he showed last year he can be the guy. It's just we need a full season of that now. Defensively is a bit more murky. Obviously, there are some guys that I think are honestly very solid players, namely Michael Jackson. He was actually really good last year at times. He's very solid, very reliable. He is not top of the league. He might not even start on some teams in the NFL, but for what his role is in Carolina, he's actually very, very solid, and I respect it a lot. So shout out to Michael Jackson, which just sounds weird saying that. But like I said earlier, though, a huge issue for them, though, was safety as well, which was just really, really bad. So what do? You draft and you make a move to sign a proven safety in Trayvon Merrick. You draft Lathan Ransom. I absolutely love that. You still have Nick Scott, he's a veteran. Kind of is what it is. Nothing too special there. No offense to him. Derrick Brown is absolutely the leader of this defense, and I really hope he stays healthy this year because the defense just is not the same without him. I mean, he's a top 5 defensive tackle in the NFL when healthy, and he's just phenomenal. DJ One, they brought him from the Vikings last year, and he was hurt for a while with that shoulder injury. He had surgery on. It was a longer recovery or something, so that kind of sucks. I'd like to see a full year of him healthy to see what he can really do. But Josie Jewell was solid last year for Carolina. Trayvon Wallace was a draft pick last year who was a fairly raw prospect, but with pretty good athleticism. I'd like to see him in year 2. So all this to say, you still have J.C. Horn, who, again, arguably top 5 corner when healthy. The pieces are here, and it's not exactly where the offense is. In my opinion, the offense is now in the spot where the ceiling is wherever Bryce can take them. You're never going to have a perfect offense with all these perfect pieces. I think the Eagles or the Bengals are probably as close as you possibly can get to absolutely just perfect across the board in every position on offense. You're never really going to have that. So I think the offense for Carolina is good enough to where if you have a great quarterback, he can take you very, very far. And that's, I think, what the expectation is now for Bryce Young, is just stepping back and seeing what he can do. Defense, though, is going to widely depend on guys stepping up and or other guys getting into roles and exceeding the expectations that were there for them. Because, for example, like Clowney, if he's on this roster, he's older, but he's going to be the only edge rusher they have unless one of the rookies prove themselves. So he's got to step up. It's got to be some players like that just take the next step. Trayvon Merrick, he has to become the best safety on this football team. Unless Lathan Ransom has an absolutely massive breakout year as a rookie safety. Merrick has to be that guy. Horn has to stay healthy, has to be that guy. So there's a lot of kind of contingencies here, but I think the draft still got them in position to have some big splash plays with some really nice rookies. And I'm really, really happy with this Panthers draft class. If I had to guess, Panthers finish probably 2nd or 3rd in the division. It's going to be a race between the Buccaneers and Falcons. Falcons had a great draft as well. Very, very, just really loaded up on defense. Buccaneers just the best team in the division, in my opinion. But I got to say, Carolina, a lot of great moves this offseason. Love their draft. Very excited for Bryce Young to Ted McMillan. But overall, is this team going to make the playoffs? Early prediction, probably not. But with that said, this is end of April, early May. A lot can change. It's kind of like a too early thing, but I love doing these looks at teams early on in the offseason because you'd be surprised how much things can change from right now to come July when we're talking about the Panthers. A lot changes. It happens every year with certain teams. So we'll see what it looks like then, but I'm very excited for this draft class. I'm really excited to see what they can do. I think there's a lot of guys in here that can definitely be starters. Let me know down below what you guys think of the Carolina Panthers 2025 draft class, and also how your favorite team did in the draft in case it's not the Panthers. Thank you guys for watching. I do really appreciate it. Let me know down below what you guys want to see next. I can cover more teams. We will be doing a ranking every team's draft class video very soon. But yeah, subscribe if you're new. I would appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.